I think so. If we're going forward and everyone's going, holy crap, I had no idea Giulio was this guy. I thought he was just, a slick hairdresser who done good. They don't understand the journey. You said it just 2 seconds ago. Yeah, I want to be Giulio. But they didn't understand how many nights or days we sat there. And even I go through it like, where's the cash flow? You don't understand you don't understand business till you sweat and payroll,
Yeah. Mm.
so at this point you've got your craft, you've mastered your craft, you've got the respect of the industry, and I know that because just because celebrities are celebrities, but you worked in the celebrity world. They asked for Julia when we did New York Fashion Week. They asked for you. Nikki Taylor requested Julio. And that back then, for you kids that don't know, there used to be supermodels, and there was five big ones, and Nikki Taylor was at the top with Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, and that's what gave birth to this whole movement. And you were there, and that doesn't make you a better hairdresser, but it does in some ways because your craft spoke for itself. So now you mastered your craft, you're taking your knocks in business. So you're at Central Bleats, and there's this opportunity to get into schools. But before you go, where's your mindset now? You've got your two boys, you've come back from death, and you have an opportunity, and you still don't. Where do you go from there? Because I still know the Julio that was there.
Well, it's funny because when I was talking to Win, who was the co-founder with John Paul for the schools, and told me Paul Mitchell was going to start schools. Man, I always wanted to start a school because my
Yeah.
passion was teaching others. Even though I did well behind the chair, I always had people behind me, and I made a point to teach them so that they can grow, not look at me how great I am. And I haven't mastered it. I'm still learning. To learning for me
Hmm.
is a journey, not a destination. But when I heard this, I used to sit there and fantasize outside my house and visualize myself owning a school, to the point that I would take weekend trips to Florida because that's where I wanted to go, Florida. I wanted to open up in Florida, and I would book right at the airport at the Holiday Inn, and I would sit
Yeah.
in the back pool area and just make believe I lived there. I imagined myself there. I made believe I lived there. I just kept owning it. And then when I got home, I said, okay, that's it. We'll leave the salon open. I'm going to row the boat to Florida. And when I get there, I'm going to burn the boat because there should be no options that I can get back. I got to make this happen. And it didn't happen right away. It took a couple of years of living out in Florida, but I uprooted my family, sold my house. I did it. I just did it. I didn't think of the fears. Something came over me and said, this is what you got to do. Do it. And this is going to be your platform to help others.
Well, I think you said something that most people forget. There's a fear that holds us all back. When you knew you wanted this, and I remember you talking about that when you were still cutting hair and owning salons, you said we need better beauty schools. And then John Paul did a great ad in one of the magazines, I think Salon Today, about being a hairdresser is super cool, and that's what sparked all this with you because you're right. And then Win Claybaugh, who's been very instrumental and very prominent in this industry. He's not even a hairdresser because he loves hairdressers and he gives back like you, and he sees your talent. You've been friends with him for 100 years, like we have, and so you look at it and you go, "All right, I'm going to do this." But you almost manifested this. You sat in the place you wanted to be, and you pretended you were already there. And that, even if you go back and look at how successful people do things, and you were doing well, but you weren't the Julio. You were still manifesting. How am I going to get my school? And you made it happen through will, the love and support of your family, and your reputation as a quality human being.
And a lot of prayer.
Oh, a ton of
A
it.
ton of
A
prayer.
ton of it.
Because you said it before, as an entrepreneur, or as a founder of a company, you take on all the risks. I mean, it's not like, and people don't realize that even when you open up a beauty school, before you get approved, you have to build it first. Then they will approve whether you get your license for it. So now
And
you're investing all this money, not knowing if it's a sure thing, if the state or the federal government will even allow you to have it. Uh,
so when you think on that for a minute, boys and girls, I love this part when they go, "What if Julio doesn't get funding? The kids have to pay out of their pocket." How hard is it for someone to go to a school on their own nickel? It's impossible, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And so,
yeah. I mean, most of us don't have money to whip out of our pockets and make it
no,
happen.
that's why we go to beauty school. So if you're listening right now, so you understand how much he believes in this industry and himself at this time, this is a roll of the dice that might go away. And your life's work, your money, your family's been uprooted, and boom, it's gone. You could have nothing. But what would you have? This is what I need everyone to understand about Giulio. What would you have done if that happened?
I would have cut hair again. Yeah, I would have went behind the chair. Listen, there's always an option to do something. I wasn't made to not. I was made to do, and to give. So it's going to be a risk. And listen, when I found out how it took 2 years before I even found a location that somebody would even talk to me to build a school in Florida. But I didn't give up. And then when they finally told me how much it was going to cost to build out, I stayed very calm and cool. And I was like, yeah, well, let me think about this location, because they were like, it's going to cost about $2 million. I'm like, I don't have $2. I'm
Yeah,
like, how am I going to do this?
I
But they
got a
started.
dollar fifty.
Yeah, exactly. But they started speaking a language I did not know, and when I showed, like, well, let me think upon this, and they really wanted us in there. He was like, "Don't worry about it. We'll pay for the whole build out. We're amortizing through your rent and everything." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll think about it." And I'm like, "What the hell does amortize mean?" So
Yeah,
but I went and looked it up, and I mean, he not only gave me a great rent, including the amortization, which means over 10 years I will have that 2 million paid off. I took the risk and I said, okay, sounds like a good deal. Let's do it. I still had to fish some money, get some angel investors. I had a lot of doors closed on me, slammed on me, but there were people who believed, and gave me a couple $100,000, but not compared to the 2 million I needed. But no was not an option. And yes, I'm
no.
going to make this happen was the option. And when you really have a burning desire and great faith that this will happen, you will find ways to make it happen, no matter how many no's you get.
And something I think is really important that everyone has to understand who really, if you know you well enough, you know this is you. You're a student of life. You're a student always, whether it's hair or business. And so a lot of people don't understand you went to Harvard and got an MBA. Imagine not knowing. This is really important for you to hear that. Giulio just admitted he didn't know what amortization is or EBITDA or all those big words that fancy people throw at us people. And some of the best advice that you and I ever got was from Luke Jacobellis. And Luke said, Gary, make them talk to you like you're a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And I started doing that. And so when I asked for amortization, what you boys and girls have to know, over 10 years, every year, Giulio had to give 200,000 plus to pay back. That's what it means to get that 2 million off his books so he could start making profit. So knowing you, and most people don't know this, he's a ninja. And if he gets backed in, he's going to give you a joke, keep you at arm's length, but he's going to go home and he's going to research it, and he's going to come back as smart, if not smarter, than the guy who put him in the corner. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. Yeah. I, first of all, I, I, if I'm going to build a team or have believers, I can't show them that I give up, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I might cut a joke. You're right. I will probably cut a few jokes, but then I go home and I have think time. I get alone and I work out every scenario possible. Believe me, it was not easy to work out those scenarios. And I used every approach that I could get. And same thing with, the accreditation that you were talking about earlier. How are we going to get this to make this work so that people can come here and we can give them foundations that they need? But also, how can we give them the knowledge to know that anything is possible? And I share my story with them to let them know that what I thought, when I thought I was not possible, I was possible. It wasn't about how smart I was. It was about how I was smart. And I would use that how I was smart to get what I needed to do and get it done. Man, I came out with negotiations that people were like, that's not going to work, but it worked. Why? Because they were afraid to use it. I wasn't.